for the water grows in me. And I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be. I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come in to the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. And I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars, waiting for their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free. The Peace of the Wild Things by Wendell Berry. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the J. Roldan Speaks podcast. I hope you had a wonderful day. Hope you're looking forward to this session with us. If this is your first time here, I want to say thank you for being here. I know you could have done so many other things. Tonight's going to be a special night because we're going to be talking about something that you and I desperately need. And it's not easy. And you probably have felt some of it in your life, but for some reason it just doesn't seem sustaining or prolonged or maybe even meaningful. So I want to encourage you to maybe listen to some of these words tonight, and if they speak to you, then why don't you do yourself a favor? I want you to ponder some of these words. I want you to let these words just take a hold of you, of your mind, of your heart, and see what you learn from it. You know, some of the greatest thinkers that ever existed are the ones that never gave up on a curiosity, even if it went nowhere. You see, that's the difference between somebody that longs for a desire. That's someone that wants to be driven and be challenged and seek an ultimate truth that is settling. So maybe tonight when you listen to these words, there'll be something that will speak to your heart. Remember, there's a place to edify your mind, to strengthen your heart, and to really just share some wonderful messages that we all need. So before I share what our theme is tonight, I want to say a special thank you to all of you, my regulars, and all of my subscribers, and all y'all that have left some wonderful messages. And please know that this place is for you to continue to share with others. And understand that these words aren't even mine. I'm simply just a messenger that's relaying a message. Good news, wonderful news, news of hope, news of super powerful faith, as well as news that is an everlasting love. But there's one more attribute that ties all of those together, and that is peace. You know, we really have this longing for peace in our lives. And like I said before, many of us have probably felt it before. We've experienced it. We've experienced some trace of it. But we can never get enough. You see, love is something that we desire, and we also would love to feel and know that someone desires us. And this is a great quality, right? This is something that we obviously want. And so we have a restlessness about it when we don't have that, right? When we feel a little bit lonely, when we feel a little bit lost, when we feel undesired, right? There's a restlessness that gets embedded because of it. And the same thing goes with hope. You see, when there is no hope, then we turn into a restlessness. And probably you've read some stories or literatures or short stories, or even some people that will say, you know what, I gave up on hope and I'm at peace. That's actually not true. But we say that so that we can have peace in our hearts, which is interesting, right? When we accept the things as is, right? Sometimes we deceive ourselves thinking that acceptance is peace. But see, that's not the full understanding of what peace is. So I go back to my previous statement, which is when we don't have hope, then we naturally fall into a restlessness. And finally, there's faith. Because even if we can't see something, we can't hear it, we can't smell it, we can't touch it, we can't taste it, sometimes we really believe something so desperately, and also so intelligibly at times, that without that faith, then we also become restless. And so all these three attributes that I just mentioned are all tied together. Because when we don't have each of those things, then we have restlessness. But when we do, then that's when peace is attained. It doesn't mean that there won't be any dark seasons in your life. It doesn't mean that you won't confront conflict. It doesn't mean that you won't have some form of brokenheartedness in your experience. But what it does mean is that when you do come across those things, you know how to approach it now. Because if your heart is settled, if your heart is at peace, then you will be able to endure all that desperation. You'll be able to endure that restlessness. Because restlessness is the counterfeit of peace. And so if you already know what that feels like, then you and I both are looking for the same thing, which is peace. And I would encourage you to find someone who is peaceful, because that is much more sustaining than any type of infatuation, any type of entertainment, any type of ideology that you probably have come across in your years. And so peace is what we long for. And so I want to read the poem that I started out this live tonight again. And tonight, all the poems that are going to be read are going to discuss various perspectives on peace. And it's going to be a great show tonight, guys. So make sure that you stick around and post some comments, whatever you like. Please understand, if this is your first time here, that sometimes, many times, I would say most of the time, I don't really get a chance to read your comments, but you are certainly welcome to put them in here. And if it's important, then some of my moderators will be kind enough to remind me whenever I have breaks in between some of these readings. As you guys know, I really get immersed in these readings, and I want you guys to really, really see the nature and the effect of why these amazing poets spend so much of their lives, so much of their time, so much of their restlessness writing these amazing expressive words for you and I to experience, to read, to enjoy, to ponder, to reflect, to grow, and to understand. So, are you ready to embark on this wonderful lesson of true peace? All right, let's do this again from the top. This is the J. Roldan Speaks podcast. Welcome to the show. Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. And I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. And for a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. The peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. You see, our natural state of being, we long for that peace. Because when we are desperate, when we are having a bad day, when we are just not having things go the way that we thought it would go, we naturally remove ourselves, or at least desire to remove ourselves from the situations. And so some of us will exercise, some of us will go hiking, some of us will make something or eat something delicious, and then some of us get into things that are not the greatest of choices. But regardless of what you end up doing, we long to be in that presence of peace. And so that's one of the reasons why we all are broken-hearted, broken spiritually, broken physically, broken in many ways. And so I think that as we, as men and women, we have some good intentions that we see as good intentions. And sometimes those intentions blind us to actually being able to receive and understand and perceive what our actual situation is like. And here's what I mean. When we desire peace, when we long for it, when we are in a restless state, as I mentioned before, we will do one of the options that I mentioned earlier. And sometimes even multiple options of the same category or even multiple categories. But you do it within the same season, right? And even though we may not realize it, and some of us will actually think this is actually a great thing to do, and I agree that sometimes some of those things are great things to do. What happens is we get accustomed to that option, and so every time we have a restless moment or a restless season or a restless day or week or month, we will long to do that same routine that we did, because we get accustomed to it, and then we think that this is what brings us joy and peace. And by and large, like I said, some of those options are actually okay to do. But speaking from experience, okay, I like to go hiking. I like to go somewhere and just sort of get lost in it. You know, I mean, not literally lost, but sort of, you know, just go and explore, right? And I like to do it alone, but not all the time. And so what I thought would be an important thing to do, right? And it has in many ways helped. I was also doing something that I didn't realize that I was doing, and that was to be alone. And so, as I was saying before, I think as men and women, we have this really sort of like human-centered way of thinking what peace looks like. And because we think that it makes us feel good, therefore it's good for me. But as I said before, we aren't able to see right away that you're also isolating yourself. And sometimes that progress is so slow that you think that it's okay and it won't get worse than this, or there's nothing bad about it. So my challenge for you today, and before I read these other poems, is what if you thought of peace as something that isn't about isolating yourself? What if you did some things that was about more of community, of actually being in communion with others instead of isolating yourself? Perhaps maybe you and I can have a much more elongated, much more expansive, much more enriching, and maybe even harmonious way of understanding how peace actually should be. Because as I said, when you are in a restless state, you desire to be at peace, but the way you go about it is through multiple acts of isolation. And you might think that it's harmless and it's going to be just a little temporary thing, but every time you experience that restlessness, you will go back to that same option that you did of being alone, because hey, nobody's hurting me, nobody's lying to me, nobody's saying mean things about me, nobody's doing harmful to me. Like I said, it's perfectly understandable. But what if peace was more about being in communion, being together with someone, or even a family that you know will surround you with a true understanding and a true compassion, a true faith, a true hope, a true love. And when you bring all those three together, then maybe you'll understand what peace is like. So, let's listen to this next poem by Robert Frost. This is titled Mending Wall. I hope you guys like this one. I am so looking forward to this one because I picked a track. By the way, those of you who are interested in any of the compositions that you're listening to, right? The compositionists that you're listening to, right? Like the soundtracks. This will be posted on my Spotify account. If you don't follow me there already, guys, I urge you to please go after this show is done. Go to Spotify. If you don't have it, just download it on your phone and look for my show. It's called J. Roldan Speaks. You're going to see a picture of my face. And right underneath that picture, there's a follow button. And you'll be notified whenever a new podcast gets posted. And every single episode has a description box. And that's where I'm going to be posting all the links to all these amazing musicians that have been so wonderful, so amazing. And so many of them have given me their true peace and grace to use their soundtracks. So to all of y'all that are listening, if you ever do listen to the show, I just want to say thank you again for being so kind, so generous. And I absolutely will try my best to promote you guys and support you as much as I can. But for those of you who right now are listening to this podcast, if you are interested in knowing who they are, go to the description box and there'll be some links there. You can go to their page and listen to their wonderful, wonderful music. All right, guys, let's do this. All right, give me 1 second. I forgot that which one. There it is. All right, here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mending Wall by Robert Frost. Here we go. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it. And spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. And the work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them, and made repair. Where they have left not one stone on a stone. But they drive the rabbit out of hiding, to please the yelping dogs. The gaps, I mean, no one has seen them made or heard them made. But at spring, mending time, we find them there. I let my neighbor know, beyond the hill. And on a day we meet to walk the line, I set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go. And to each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are loaves, and some so nearly balls we have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game. One on a side. It comes to little more. There where it is. We do not need the wall. He is all pine and I am apple orchard. And my apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines, I tell him. He only says, good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in. Or walling out. And to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly. And I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top. And each hand, like an old stone savage armed, he moves in darkness as it seems to me. He will not go behind his father's saying. And he likes having thought of it so well. He says again, good fences make good neighbors. I think that deserves a round of applause, don't you all think? That was Mending Wall by Robert Frost. What an amazing poem. I love this poem. I haven't read it in such a while. And this piece by this amazing composer, his name is Bellatrix. My goodness. Wow. What a beautiful composition. I'm telling you, this track, in my opinion, was made for this poem. So good, guys. All right. I don't want to get lost in my enumeration of this wonderful, wonderful poem. All right, let me tell you guys something really interesting about this poem, okay? And tonight's word, or tonight's theme is about peace, guys, okay? And here's why I chose this poem to talk about peace. Okay, so the title is Mending Wall. You have two gentlemen that are neighbors, okay? They share a land together, right? Obviously, one belongs to one person, the other one belongs to the other. But they touched each other, right? Like their properties touch each other. And so here's this one gentleman that basically wakes up one morning and he has this thought of like, you know, I really don't like that my neighbor's tree, okay, his pine tree to be exact, is hovering over my property because it's also casting a shadow over my apple tree, which I planted there, and I want this apple tree to grow, right? I'm paraphrasing here, guys. And so he gets bothered by it. But he's the only one that's bothered by it. Because when he looks at his neighbor, he's at peace. Nothing's bothering him. And of course, the gentleman in the poem, that speaker of the poem, and he's scratching there and